Welcome to our monthly webinar. This month, we are going to give you insights on the Amazon category baby toys. But before we start, let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Ines Nagy. I'm responsible for the consulting business at Metoda. I'm with Metoda since more than 7 years, and before that, I was working at Amazon here in Munich as a senior vendor manager. And I'm trying to support our customers in getting the right insights out of e-commerce data to take the right decisions for their Amazon business, but also beyond. If you have joined one of these webinars earlier, you might know what we are going to look at, but here let me briefly introduce what we are looking at in these webinars. As I said, today we are looking at the category baby toys, and we are focusing on the countries UK, Germany, France, Italy, and Spain. But before we dive into the baby toys category, we are starting with an overview on the Amazon retail development worldwide to put everything that we see in the baby toys category into a broader perspective. And then baby toys, we are looking at the market size, how is the market structure, and of course, I'm going to show you the top leading brands in baby toys in the different marketplaces we are looking at. So now let's start with the Amazon retail development. We are here looking at the Amazon retail net sales worldwide. These figures do not include sales from 3P sellers, but only what Amazon is selling as a retailer on all their online stores. The left-hand bar chart is showing the net sales on a quarterly basis. And what you can see is that for each year, usually the net sales is growing from quarter to quarter, finalizing in a Q4 that has by far the highest sales within the year. This is a development that is quite common for Amazon and most probably also for most other retail stores, either online or offline, that sell such a broad assortment as Amazon does. If we look over the years from 2019, which was the last year before COVID-19, and through to 2022, you see that this is quite common. Like the sales are growing from quarter to quarter. 2021 is the first year that we are seeing that actually Q3 is below Q2 and Q1 sales. That is not common. That is an unusual development. And this is really driven by COVID-19 and the impact on shopper behavior. 2022, you see Q1 and Q2 are quite flat. Q3 is increasing again, and Q4 has the highest sales. If we compare the total number, you actually see that last year, the net sales were below the previous year. So we are really seeing in total a -1% development in sales for Amazon worldwide. This is net sales. If we look at the year-over-year growth, excluding foreign exchange rates, we still see a positive year-over-year development in 2022 compared to the previous year. But let's start with 2019, where we had a year-over-year development of 16%, which is okay for Amazon. 22 shows a tremendous growth of 40% year over year. We all know that this was driven by COVID-19. We had offline shops that had to be closed. People stayed at home in the home office instead of going to the office. So consumer behavior really shifted towards online sales. And we've seen this huge sales increase year over year across nearly all online channels. 2021 growth, year-over-year growth declined again, which is of course driven by relaxed measures regarding COVID-19. So people started to shop again offline. They went to the offices again. And of course, this tremendous growth in 22 led to like very high comparison state if we look into 2021. 2022 looks very different. Overall, we only see like 3.5% year-over-year growth, and this is driven by the Q3, which was in 2021 quite low, and in 2022 slightly above Q1 and Q2. In 2022, we see like several things impacting the online sales of Amazon negatively. First of all, the COVID-19 effect that already started in 2021, where we've seen, like, as I said, shopping behavior changed. People were starting to buy offline again. They were going into the offices. So the online sales share declined in 2021. And second, the Russian invasion into Ukraine in Q1 2022 actually resulted in higher energy and raw material prices, which were leading to a worldwide economic crisis. And this worldwide economic crisis, overall the prices increased, meaning we were seeing like very high inflation rates, which is still going on nowadays. So consumers had to spend more money to fulfill their basic needs like rent and food, and had less money to spend for other things like furniture or vacations or something. So what we are seeing here is that 2022 is impacted by these economic crises, and consumers spend less money besides for their basic needs. This is a development that's not only true for Amazon, but we can see that overall in retail, but online retail is actually hit twice by the reshift of consumer behavior. So they are like splitting their shopping to offline and online again, and by reduced spendings. So this is the situation we were in last year: low spendings, low online share. And now let's have a look at the baby toys category, how that category developed. We are looking at baby toys for these 5 countries. And as you can see, all the categories are the same in all countries. That is not very common. We are usually seeing like more categories in one country than compared to another one, which simply always shows also how important a category is on a certain marketplace for Amazon. But as you see here, it's the same categories for all marketplaces. So it actually also means they all have the same importance for Amazon on all marketplaces. Looking at that 5 categories in the different countries, we are seeing on the left-hand side the orders that were generated on these marketplaces for baby toys in the second half year 2022. And on the right side, we are seeing the revenue that was generated out of that. As you can see here, in total, we see roughly 1.7 million orders in the baby toys categories for the second half year that were resulting in nearly 29 million euro gross revenue on these Amazon marketplaces. But what you can also clearly see is that UK and Germany, for orders as well as revenue, make up the largest share of these orders and revenues generated across the 5 countries. Together, they actually make up 3/4 of orders and revenue in the baby toys category. What is important to understand, even if France, Italy, and Spain are quite small compared to the other 2 countries, Amazon is actually across Europe, in those countries where Amazon has an own marketplace, the most important online channel for toys and baby. And if we're looking outside Amazon, it's predicted that the online share for toys will further grow to 36% in 2025, which means even if you are selling your products in Italy and Spain, where the market size is much smaller than in Germany and UK, Amazon is a highly relevant sales channel for your toys products. And of course, if you are selling in all countries, UK and Germany are the two countries where you should invest the most. But now let's have a look how these total figures split up into the different categories. So as you see here, baby toys, that's like the parent category, because it just has like a small share of revenue, which is because most of the products listed in the baby toys categories are actually also listed in the categories below. So what we do here is that we are neglecting the revenue of products listed in lower subcategories, and that is why we have only like a low revenue share in the baby toys category as parent category. Of course, you see like in Germany and Italy, baby toys still has like 13%, which is simply they hold products that do not actually belong to one of the categories below. Looking at the subcategories that are most relevant here, you see that baby toys has a very small revenue share across all countries. It's actually more like a niche product or a niche category here. While baby rattles and plush rings is the category that has the highest market share or highest revenue share on all marketplaces. If we look at France, it's really like also the product category that is dominating the baby toys revenue here. And also France has actually the highest average price for baby rattles and plush rings across all the different marketplaces. Balls for babies and pushchair and pram toys are in most of the countries quite close from a revenue share, so they have nearly the same size. While when we look at UK, you see that pushchair and pram toys are nearly the same, generate nearly the same revenue as baby rattles and plush rings. We looked into that a little bit deeper, and we have seen that the demand is much lower than for baby rattles and plush rings, but due to the higher average price of that product, the revenue generated is quite close to each other. And one thing that we also see here for bowls for babies, you see the green fields always mark like the highest average price in that country, and the red one the lowest one. Bowls for babies has actually the highest average price in 3 out of these 5 marketplaces we are looking at. And why that is the case, we will see on the next slide. Because on the next slide, we're actually looking into how the revenue splits over these different price ranges. So we selected price steps of €10, and covering the range from 0 to €10, 10 to €20, up to €50, respectively above €50. And what you can clearly see here is that the largest revenue share is generated in the price range 10 to €20, and that is mainly driven by baby rattles and plush rings. We only have one exception, which is UK, where the 20 to €30 range generates the same revenue as the 10 to €20 range. And in UK, this is mainly coming from pushchair and pram toys, which are selling at a slightly higher price, as we have seen. They had an average price of €17, while the baby rattles and plush rings had an average price of €14, but also by balls for babies and like slightly more expensive baby rattles and plush rings. For Germany and Spain, we are seeing also like quite a relevant revenue share in the price segment above €50. And this is actually coming from products for ball pit sets, which means like these pools where you put in a lot of bowls for babies. They seem to be very, very frequently sold or bought in Germany and Spain. And they have, because they are these are larger sets, a higher average price, resulting in this revenue share here across above 50 euro. If we do not look at revenue, but at the product selection across these price segments, we also see that most of the products sold in the baby toys category are actually within the price range 10 to 20 euro, which is, of course, not surprisingly, because that's like the price range for like the volume category, baby rattles and plush rings. And we also see, when we remember, UK had also like a 40% revenue share in the 20 to 30 euro range, that in UK only 16% of the products are actually within that price range. So 16% of the products generate 40% of the revenue. So if you are located with your product in that price segment in the right categories, you will have a very nice market share and generate high revenues with your products here. If we look at the brands across the price segments, we also see that most of the brands offer products in that price segment 10 to 20 euro. Of course, we have the highest revenue there, the highest volumes, the most products sold here, and the most brands, which actually means that in that price segment 10 to 20 euro, we see the highest volumes, but also the strongest competitions. But also the market leaders we are going to look at in the next couple of minutes are mainly in that price segment 10 to 20 euro. And you see that from 30 euro onwards, there are only just a few brands actually selling successfully their products in that baby toys category. So let's have a look at the market structure. What do we look at here? On the vertical axis, you see the cumulated revenue share of the brands. On the horizontal axis, it's the number of brands we are looking at. So the first dots you see here is actually that the top leading brand in Spain has a market share of 8%, which is quite low. And the top leading brand in France has a market share of 19%, which is quite okay if you're the market leader in the category. But you also see that UK and France are well above the market shares of the top brand. And Italy, Spain, and Germany are more in the higher one, lower two-digit market range. So for UK and France, it's pretty clear that the market, there are clear market leaders in baby toys. But for the other categories, and especially if we look at Germany, where the top 5 brands own 41% of the market, we are seeing for Germany that it's more a group of brands, meaning a group of competitors, really owning quite a strong share of the total market. What is also interesting is that only 3% of the brands are actually selling successfully on all marketplaces. That is quite low. If you recall that, there are not so many brands actually in that baby toys category. There are other categories where we see much more different brands here. But that also means that depending on the marketplace you are selling, consumers might have a different preference for different products and different brands. And that is something, if you are selling your products on Amazon across different marketplaces, you really have to take into account. But now let's have a look which are the top brands in the different markets. As I already said, like there are different brands and only some of them are successful in all markets. What we see in the top 3 brands is that VTech is a brand that is actually showing up in the top 3 brands in 3 markets. VTech is a multinational company, and it's only in France belonging to the top brand. In the other 2 countries, it's like on position 2 or 3. But VTech, although they show up in several markets in the top 3, is not the brand generating the highest revenue. That is actually Lamaze, which is the leading brand with 16% market share in UK, which is, if you recall the first slide, besides Germany, the largest market here. So they are very successful. If we look into Germany, for instance, you see like Feen as a top leading brand with 12%, or also Eichhorn with 9%. These 2 are actually German brands, German toys brands that are successful here. And this is something that we also see in other markets, like in France, Sophie La Girafe, in Italy, Chico. So what we see when we look at the top brands is that we see a mixture out of local brands that are most probably well known because like the parents buying toys for their kids have been playing with these toys already as a kid by themselves, but also multinational brands like, for instance, VTech or Bright Stars. So this is a mix that is quite common in certain types of categories. There are other categories like, for instance, consumer electronics, where you nearly have no local brands. It's mainly driven by multinational brands, but we see it in toys that you have sometimes like local brands, but we also see it, for instance, in medical appliances, that local brands that are well known might be very successful here. What you can also see is that the average price of the top brands is usually in the range between 10 and 30 euro. And as I said, like the leading brands are all in the price range 10 to 20 euro, which is the range with the highest volumes and the highest orders. We only have like 2 exceptions. One is Kitty Moon, that is selling these ball pit sets. And as I said before, they are generating quite some revenue in Germany and also in Spain. And because these are such large sets, they have a higher average price. That's why Kitty Moon, for instance, is showing up on position 2 in Germany. And the second one is actually Rainbow High in Spain with an average price of nearly 70 euro. But we have to admit that actually Rainbow High does not really belong to that category. The products of Rainbow High are listed wrongly here because they are selling fashion dolls and not baby toys. But that's how it is with Amazon. If a product is listed in the category, it will show up in our analysis. We usually remove such like wrongly listed products in customer projects, but for the webinar, we keep it as it is. But what you can see here again, what I already mentioned on the slide before, is that we are seeing different competitors, at least on the top positions in the different countries. And if we look a little bit more into details, these are now the top 2 competitors per each category we are looking in. You see here also that, for instance, the one always marks the brand on the top position, 2 is the second strongest brand in the country, and 3 the third strongest brand. You recall that baby Ruddles and plush rings is the category across all marketplaces with the highest revenue. But what we see that the top leading brand, except for France, where of course baby Ruddles and plush rings generates more than half of the revenue, are actually generating their highest revenue in other categories. And this is what I mentioned before. Even if baby Ruddles and plush rings with like the highest revenue and with a within the price segment 10 to 20 euro, we are seeing here the highest competition. So the strongest brands within the baby toys category are actually strongest in other categories, because the competition is so strong that you see, like, for instance, in UK, the top brand in baby runners and plushings only generates 9% of the revenue. In Italy and Spain, it's 12, respectively 14%. And only in Germany and France, we are seeing that the top leading brands here generate more than 20% of the revenue in that category. So if you sell baby ruddles and plush rings in the baby toys category, you are like definitely having the highest potential, because it's the largest revenue that is generated by this product type, but you are also facing the highest competition. And what we also see here on that slide, not only, as we have seen before, we have top brands in every country, it's also that you're also, as a brand selling in that category, are facing different competitors in each category and in each country, which makes it quite complex and requires you to really think about your strategy depending on the different marketplace and on the different category you are selling in. Are there any questions? No questions on what I just presented? Specific ones, general ones, just feel free. So I see that someone is typing. Oh, so I'm going to publish that question. Did you include bath toys in the baby category? No, we did not include bath toys. I know in Germany, bath toys belong to baby toys, but in all other countries, bath toys are actually a separate category. So that is why we did not include bath toys here. But I can tell you that bath toys is huge if you compare it to the other categories. But to make it comparable across the different marketplaces, we excluded bath toys. Are there any further questions? So I see again someone is typing. So let's just wait for another second. So there is a question. Could you do something similar with the toys and games category, please? So we are running these webinars on a regular basis, but we are usually not looking into a whole category, because that's a very, very high effort. And that's why we usually pick like smaller categories, like subcategories, as this time baby toys, or next time we are going to look into coffee in the grocery category. But if you have like specific questions, just feel free to contact us. Maybe we can support you outside of the webinars. So there's another question. Oh. Can you please give a strategy to find the leaders in baby categories other than toy brands that we went through today? Also, you mean not the baby toys, but like, for instance, strollers or something like that. So if you want to know the leaders in that categories, you can, of course, always contact us. We are very happy to run a project, a customer-specific project for you. If you don't want to spend money, the easiest way is actually to check the bestseller categories of Amazon. These are displaying the top sold products. These are always like the top 100 products. And the products and brands that you see in these bestseller categories are usually the ones selling the most. Of course, you always have to distinguish, because I have one great example, not from babies, but from another category, is, for instance, Dyson. Dyson is a brand that is usually not selling very high volumes, for instance, in vacuum cleaners or hair dryers. But due to the fact that they have very high price, they are simply selling premium products, they are always showing up in the top brands if you look at revenue. So this is something you will not see when you're looking at the bestseller categories, but you will at least find those products and those brands that sell the most. So there's another question. Will we be able to access the information from today's webinar as a download? Yes, of course. You're going to receive an email after the webinar today, maybe tomorrow, with a link to download the presentation, and also with a link to the recording of the presentation. There's another question. In which category do include ride-on vehicles for children? Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know that now, but I'm happy to look that up and include that in the question and answers to that presentation. There's another question. Which market country has the highest growth rate? As you have seen, we're only looking at a static period of half a year. But I can tell you that, like, from a main category, which is toys, actually Germany had the highest year-over-year growth, while we have seen in nearly all other countries, stable or even negative growth. Okay. So I just see that one of the questions with the ride-on vehicles was already answered by another participant. Thank you very much for that. Then I will continue. Besides the presentation, you are actually getting, if you want to, the chance to get all the raw data for that presentation, for these analysis for your further use. You will just have to sign up under the link that's posted in the questions in the chat channel. And we are going to send you the raw data and explain it to you so that you can even do more detailed analysis for baby toys in that time period. But now let's sum up today's analysis. We have seen we were looking at baby toys, and we were looking at the time period of the second half year last year, and we were seeing that roughly 1.7 million orders were generated, resulting in nearly 29 million euro gross revenue, with UK and Germany being by far the largest markets, making up 3/4 of the market. But as I already said, Amazon is the leading online channel for toys and babies in all markets. They are running a marketplace. And of course, the share of online sales is supposed to further increase in the toys categories. So Amazon is actually a highly relevant sales channel for toys. Within the baby toys category, we have seen that baby bottles and plush rings have the highest demand and also generate the highest revenue in all markets. But we have also seen that this is the category that actually has the highest competition. The major share of revenue is generated in the category price segment 10 to 20 euro. And this is driven by the category baby bottles and plush rings. The only exception we see is in UK, where we have seen like the same revenue share in the 20 to 30 euro price range, which is mainly driven by plush rings. No, sorry, by the how do you call it? Yeah, by the sorry, I forgot the name. So what we are seeing in the price segment 10 to 20 euro is that we are having high volumes, high demand, but also like very high competition. And what we also see is that only 3% of the brands are actually successful in all marketplaces. And we are seeing like a mix of local and multinational brands. And we're seeing that consumers have different preferences for products and brands on the different marketplaces. So you as a brand or as a brand for baby toys are actually facing different competitors in all the different categories you are selling your products and on all the different marketplaces. As we already said, you will receive an email with links to the presentation and the recording of today's webinars. If you're interested in further webinars, as I already mentioned, in next month, we are going to talk about coffee, like in grocery. And we are running monthly webinars like every month. So if you don't want to miss one, simply sign up for our newsletter. We are always announcing the webinars beforehand. If you want to see if there were other webinars that are interesting for you, we were, for instance, running a webinar on toys last year around that time. You can check out our YouTube channel. There are all the recordings of the webinars available. And if you have further questions, contact us. Of course, we are not only offering like such market insights projects, but also all the services you need for your Amazon business. And if you have further questions, just get in touch with us. And yeah, we are happy to have you here and wish you a very nice day.